support this motion. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Adan Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, allow me to thank the Honorable Mutuse. Focused, and I'm sure in annal of the history of this country, Mr. Speaker, and the history of the 13th Parliament, Mr. Mutuse, you will be appreciated. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I've also gone through this impeachment clauses, Mr. Speaker. The 11 clauses, Mr. Speaker, are cogent, are rich in evidence, Mr. Speaker, and clearly demonstrate the actions, the omissions, the commissions of the Deputy President. Mr. Speaker, I've had an opportunity to reflect, because there's one thing that the DP has been using, that is a truthful man. I went back to the ironic definition, how a truthful man is supposed to be described in the Bible, in the Quran, in the civil society, Mr. Speaker. And in those definitions, Mr. Speaker, I have missed an iota of resemblance on anything that I can associate with those actions and the activities of the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these clauses, we are a member of Parliament. We as members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, our work is to protect the Constitution. Our work is to oversight, and our work is to do one of these things that have been demanded today by this impeachment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in all these clauses, the common denominator is the DP has abused his office through corruption, through tenderpreneuring, through disparaging and disobeying his boss, through undermining devolution, and Mr. Speaker, equally also by being a threat to our sovereignty. Mr. Speaker, this country is a collection of many nation states. The Kikuyu nation, the Somali nation, the Luya nation, and this is what we are proud of, Mr. Speaker, and this is what constitutes the sovereign Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other day, and I want to repeat this, and you will excuse me for saying this country has a very rich history. In 1982, one gallant son from northern Kenya called Gerald Mahmoud saved the Kenyans from militarism, and I think we all appreciate it. He's still alive. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, another general by the name General Muhammad Ali saved the Kenyans from the effects of the socio-political turmoil of 2007. And Mr. Speaker, the post-election violence. In 2024, another son from that region, Nurdin, has also saved this country from the effects and activities of Rigji and his cohorts, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that doesn't take away the contributions of many other Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, in all this, what I have gathered, and we have been in Parliament together, we are doing a favor for Rigji. We are doing a favor for the executive, members of the executive. We must save Rigji from the members of the executive, the other members, because he's a threat to their continued performance of their job, Mr. Speaker. We must also save Rigji from the members of the judiciary because he keeps on attacking them, Mr. Speaker. We must also save Rigji from the members of the legislature because he attacks them, Mr. Speaker. We must also save Rigji from the 47 tribes, Mr. Speaker, because he keeps on attacking them. Mr. Speaker, we must also save Rigji from the remnants of Mau Mau because he keeps on abusing their name, Mr. Speaker. We must save Rigji, Mr. Speaker, because he abuses our ladies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must also save Rigji from the people of Mount Kenya because he abuses their names and he wants to have them collide with other Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, isolate them, Mr. Speaker. And finally, on that aspect, we must save himself because last night, when I watched that teleprompter-driven press conference, Mr. Speaker, one thing that came to my mind is he was incriminating himself, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in all this, we have a president who has applied all his gingerly approach in managing the affairs of this nation, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, what is coming to mind is we have a DP who in every statement that he utters abuses, uses the Constitution wrongly, threatens, and demeans everybody. And it's because of this, Mr. Speaker, that and I don't want my colleagues here actually to be threatened. What you are doing is right. Is this within your legislative right, Mr. Speaker, for those of us who have elected to support this by appending our signatures, should also be available to vote today in our numbers to impeach Rigji, and by doing that, we'll be saving Kenya. I support, Mr. Speaker.
John Makali. John Makali.
Give me the mic. For the opportunity you've granted me to also weigh in on this motion. Honorable Speaker, we are facing a constitutional moment where our constitution is being tested. At the outset, let me state that I have nothing as against the Deputy President or where he comes from. But Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President is not an ordinary person. The Deputy President is actually the second in command in our nation. Before he assumes office, Article 74 of the Constitution requires him to take an oath of office. And Honorable Speaker, I've looked at the oath of office of the Deputy President. It requires him to be faithful to the Republic, to give counsel and advice to the President without fear or favor. Equally, the Deputy President is a ranking state officer, and Article 74 of the Constitution requires, Article 75 of the Constitution requires that in the conduct of a state officer, he needs to bring honor and dignity to the office he holds. Honorable Speaker, looking at the grounds that have been availed, I want to state here categorically, Honorable Speaker, that the Deputy President has violated the Constitution and his oath of office. Why do I say that, Honorable Speaker? One, the Constitution of Kenya, which the people of Kenya gave to themselves, requires that Kenya is a unitary state, regardless of the regions it has. Equally, Article 10 of the Constitution puts national unity, patriotism, as a key component of our national values in the discharge of our duties. Several other times, and I want to speak to this very clearly, Honorable Speaker, when the Deputy President, the truthful man he says he is, attended a church service in Bungoma, and we actually requested that we had several other problems which needed to be handled, specifically blocked road programs, employment opportunities. The Deputy President, the truthful man that he is, told us on our faces that according to the votes which we got, whatever we had gotten was enough and we had no duty to keep on asking for more projects. That is the Deputy President who is supposed to be the principal assistant to the President and who is supposed to portray national unity. Equally, Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President yesterday clearly said that the government that we have now, the Kenya Kwanza government, is a government of shareholders. Because he said the government was formed because of shareholding agreements. Once you become a Deputy President, you are the face of national unity. He cannot really keep invoking the promises which were made, the agreements which were made prior to the government being formed. What will happen to those other countries, other areas which are not part and parcel of those particular agreements that were alleged to have been made? Equally, Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President has committed an offense, or is reasonably expected to have committed an offense. When he was asked in his visits which he makes throughout the country, he stated that he visited Keyo Marakwet, he visited other parts of the country, and he has been given animals. And those animals, he has kept them at his home, and he now has a herd. Article 76 of the Constitution clearly indicates that when you receive a gift or a donation, you are supposed to donate it back to the Republic. You don't keep it up as your reward at home. So looking at this, Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya has committed a corruption offense for which he needs to go home. Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is supposed to be above board. He is supposed to be the number 2 citizen who needs to preach national unity. He is supposed to be the president in waiting. He is supposed to be actually the president in waiting, so that if anything happens, he is supposed to take over the reins of the country. Honorable Speaker, if we look at the utterances that have been made by the Deputy President, let us look at the KEMSA case. I've looked at the affidavit of Dr. Andrew. It is very, very clear that the Deputy President was actually conflicted in the KEMSA supply case, and Article 75 of the Constitution requires all state officers to avoid situations where they are in conflict of interest. And in leading, the Deputy President should be at the forefront of avoiding situations where he falls in a situation where there's a conflict of interest. Taking into account all these 11 grounds that have been made, I have no doubt on my mind, Honorable Speaker, that for his arrogance, that for his breach of the Constitution, that for his defiance, that for his statements, that for his conduct, he is not a truthful man as he pretends to be, and we cannot have such a person as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. It is high time, Honorable Speaker, that we now seize the dragon of tribalism, we now seize the dragon of ethnicity, we now seize the dragon of regionalism and slay it and get our nation moving forward. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this particular motion and say the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya must go, and we have start up a fresh page. I support, Honorable Speaker.
Julius Ole Sunguli.
Mr. Speaker, I come from an older period, being a member of KANU, and having served in the KANU government. And I find some things rather difficult to understand. Because, Mr. Speaker, this position of Deputy President is a new one. It came in 2010. The position of Vice President had very, very good gentlemen. I still recall the way the office was occupied by the Honorable, unfortunately late, George Saitoti, Kijana wa Malwa, and indeed, the fine gentleman that we have in politics now, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. Those people, Mr. Speaker, understood their job. The Honorable Gachagua, I would accuse him of only one thing. He does not get it. This particular job, he does not know the job description of a deputy president. For one, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya says that there shall be a president. And then that president will be assisted by a deputy president. Now, assisted by a deputy president. That means, Mr. Speaker, that our Constitution foresees a situation where we have one driver and one makanga. And one is not trying to do the job of the other. Now, how did we get into a situation, Mr. Speaker, where we now have two bosses in the country? We have the president who is the boss, and we have the deputy president who says he's also the boss. Now, if there is something that we have to do in this house, is to resolve that dispute. The country cannot run when we have...
Give Wamchomba the mic. Yes, Mheshimiwa.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order to just ask whether the word makanga is parliamentary. I just need a clarification. The word makanga, whether it is parliamentary language. Is the member in order to use that kind of language today?
Honorable Wamchomba. Order. Yes, Millie. Yes, Millie.
I don't know if Honorable Sunkuli has allowed me to inform you. Yes. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to inform Honorable Sunkuli that you can use those words so long as you put in inverted commas, because you are reporting. So when it is reported, like in the case where people are talking Kufa Makanga, kufa dereva. Mr. Speaker, I even wanted to speak to it by saying that it is actually people saying that are crucifying the DP. By saying he should kufa, the
The president is now irretrievably broken down. The only purpose of this house is to say that there is actually no more marriage and that the deputy president can no longer perform his duties as a deputy president. And so, if that happens to be the situation, then what remains? I remember the late President Moi telling us that the